Hello everybody, DMGeezerjim here to continue along my module review series, digging through some of the classics of Yawn 1st and 2nd and 3rd and 4th editions, talking about the module as it was written and kind of how well does it translate to 5th edition. Today we're doing kind of a half dip. We're looking back at Keep on the Borderlands, the original B2 module, but we're not. Let me rephrase that. We're going to look at Return to Keep on the Borderlands, the Silver Anniversary 25th edition book that was actually published by TSR in 1999. The 25th anniversary, I guess we would say 1975 was 74 was the first published date. So this is a recognition of the 25th anniversary of D&D as a product, as a game, and the designers at TSR for a period of time went back and revisited a lot of the old classic modules, updating them for 2nd edition use, actually kind of leaving them neutral as far as their stat block use goes. But taking a trip back in time at some of the old locations, providing an updated version thereof. So I'm going to look at Return to the Keep on the Borderlands. I'm going to make this disclaimer now. If you have the choice between Keep on the Borderlands and Return to the Keep on the Borderlands, I would definitely suggest this one. It does a much better job of providing an outline, an area, a region, all that kind of stuff. It actually poses as a decent beginner's DM guide as well, if you can believe it or not. First, the initial introduction talks about revisiting the keep, returning to the keep, and the fact that the module itself actually advances the timeline 20 to 25 years from the publication date. So your original Caves of Chaos were cleared out by your original adventurers back 25 years ago. So what's happened since then? That's the whole approach. That's the whole design behind the keep. In one way, as far as for a DM as a source book, it's nice because you get kind of a layout, an inspirational guide, as it were, to use an area over and over again. What does it look like if I want to reuse an area, but the party cleared it out? We went and kicked some ass, and is that part of the world dead? Is that part of the world done? Typically, we say yes, but the Return to the Keep of the Borderland kind of posits us the idea of what happens in the Caves of Chaos 25 years later. So remembering B2 as it was written, Keep on the Borderland was the module that was contained in the basic box set. Yon wonderful little purple box stuff back here. I'm not going to try to dig it out, sorry. But it's sitting on the shelf behind my box sets now. Came with it. Just like Lost Mines of Phandelver comes with the D&D, your basic set for 5th edition. The Keep on the Borderlands was that module. Most of us played that when we were learning D&D, so it's kind of a nostalgia trip for a lot of us to look at returning to Keep on the Borderlands. The first thing the book's going to go into and talk about is the setting, that the original Keep was not necessarily set in a given world. To be fair, later it was canonically placed in the Duchy of Carmakos in the land of Mystara. Keep on the Borderlands, the return to it doesn't really put an emphasis on it. It gives you some examples on where to place it. Now, this is actually a really good part of the book. If you're new to D&D, if you're new to Dungeoning and Mastering, or if you're just an old hat, it's a nice little reminding section. Remembering, what do we need to pay attention to for this particular region, this campaign? Darkness and visibility. What happens when our characters are facing death? Dividing treasure and experience. 5th edition, we're probably doing milestones, so you can ignore that. Treasure used to be part of experience back in the day, not so much now. The ecology of the dungeon, talking about what happened 25 years ago, what's moved into the cages now, how did the party explore the dungeon, making multiple forays into it. Remembering that if you make adjustments to the rules to favor the players, they also are going to apply against the players in certain cases. Good for the goose, good for the gander. If your players want to allow something to happen, that's fine. That means my NPCs are allowed to do it as well. Just a lot of good information for you as a dungeon master to remind your party. Marching order, keeping watch, running away, secret doors, detecting secret doors. How do you present those to your players? Weather conditions, changing it up, having it rain one day. All of a sudden, it's been a heavy rain, so the terrain around there is lightly flooded. It's difficult terrain. Using little bitty things to adjust the scene for multiple trips into the region. I love this first few page section. It's a great reminder. It's a great summary. If you've never DM'd if you've never Dungeon Mastered or refereed a published module, it's a nice reminding point for you. If this is your first time, it's going to bring up some stuff that you may not have thought about. So the next section gets to the keep proper. It talks about how has the keep changed in the last 25 years and your player's ability to do it. You get a nice keyed out, well keyed map, well fleshed out locations. There are some descriptive box text here and there. Lots of non-player characters that you're probably going to have to account for. Most of the residents of the keep are not necessarily military inclined anymore. A lot of them are just civilians that have moved in and they're now using the keep as their home. So in this itineration of the module, the keep is actually a residence as much as a building, a military establishment. So you're going to have kids, you're going to have pets, you're going to have families living within the keep. Dungeon Masters, be prepared to flesh it out accordingly. Add some extra non-player characters. And there's a lot of them that are given here. D'Amberville. So there's a reference to Castle Amber, the Amberville thing. Slight reference to an X2 or X3 Castle Amber. Doesn't matter. Lots of non-player characters given here. This is an interesting section of the book, The Rumors Table. This is something I wish more of our products had. How do we tell our players what's going on without actually telling them what's going on? Sometimes the rumors are true, sometimes they're false. Most of your older products that involved a civilization also included a rumors table. Some of the newer 5th edition books do as well. Some. But yeah, this is definitely a great thing. Obviously, the assumption is that everyone in the keep is hearing stuff, but no one is fully aware of everything. So you get to play with the rumors to plant hooks, to plant seeds, to plant ideas in your party's brain to move them forward. The thing that I want to focus on this first section, again, it just focuses on the inn, or not the inn, the keep itself. Gives us a lot of information to add personality and life to the keep. The keep is going to be the operational base for our party. Return to the keep on the Borderlands is not a one shot. You're certainly not going to finish it in one session. Think of it as a short campaign, long adventure type thing. Your party will likely make multiple forays into the region around the keep, as well as getting to the Caves of Chaos properly. So when you're setting this up to run this as an adventure, as a dungeon master, first thing you got to do is establish what setting are we playing it in. Homebrew world, Greyhawk, Forgotten Realms, doesn't matter. It's generic enough to fit in most any borderland, hilly, wooded region. That's all you really need to do. You need to have some hills, some low mountains, some high hills, some scruffy woods, and a borderland region that's kind of away from civilization. You get those 3 things, the module works perfectly there, whether you're homebrewing or using your own setting. Okay? The placement, the population is all determined there, but this is your town. This is your player's hub. This is their quest hub, if you will. So you definitely want to make sure that you're reading about all the non-player characters that are available and giving them a little bit of personality, giving them some life, so your players have something to interact with in between adventures. And also so your players actually get involved with the non-player characters that can then drive them into their adventures via the rumors. The 2 things are interconnected. Definitely make sure that you're spending a little bit of time preparing both. Everything that you need is given in the book. One of the downside is there is no master list of non-player characters. You will have to go room by room, location by location, setting the information off the side, whether you build a spreadsheet, note cards, notebooks, whatever you do for your note-taking. Do so as you read through this first section. Make sure to take notes of the non-player characters, their relationships, potential likes, dislikes, and all that, so you can add some life to the keep. Without the non-player characters, this is just a big-ass building sitting in the middle, and the players are fighting, just going in and out, fighting bad guys. And it could be that simple if you needed to. That's not a big deal. There's actually a couple idea hooks given for adventures within town, within the keep itself. So we can use the keep as the background for a few adventures, whether they're within the keep proper or they're driven from the keep going out into the world. Some information given for you. Again, RTFM, read the frickin' book, read the frickin' manual. And you're going to find your own hooks. You're going to find your own positions. You're going to find some of these non-player characters that you enjoy. You're going to see that, oh man, the way my party acts, they're really going to love this guy. So I want to make sure they meet this NPC up front. Things like that are what you need to prepare for when you're setting up the non-player character listings of the keep. Coordinate the non-player character listing with the rumors, and you have plenty of plot hooks to go out. Let the discussions with the non-player characters drive your players' actions. Certainly, you can put up the bulletin board. You can put up the quest board at the front gate of the keep. Adventurers wanted, go to this location, kill these, come back. If you feel driven like that, if that's what your players prefer, nothing's stopping you from doing that, okay? So let's get into the regional part of the map. Map 3 is the area map. It's not a big region, guys. 500, 1,000, 3,000 yards. Maybe 2 miles, 3 miles by 5 miles. It's a small geographic region. Like to the tune of an hour and a half walk for your party to get to any of these major points. It's not a big, long... your party shouldn't necessarily be worried about camping out in the woods very often. As a matter of fact, they should be able to return to the keep nearly in every instance for long rests. Now, Dungeon Masters, if you're using this for low-level parties, that's perfectly fine. Let them go out, do their, run out, kill 7 gnolls, grab some loot, run back to the keep, long rest. That's what it was designed for. If you're wanting to adjust this to be a little bit larger of a scale, then take the yardage meter, the scale, and increase it. Triple the distance, make it into a 15-mile by 25-mile region, and force your party into doing some outdoor, some camping, some long rest out there, some field crafting there. The flip side of that is if you choose to enlarge the scale of the area, you also need to account for more wildlife, for more random encounters, more things like that. One of the plus sides about using a small area, there's not as much risk for random encounters. Most everything that your party is going to interact with is under your control and direction. When you get into a larger area, if you don't allow for random encounters or increase the amount of encounters, then it feels big and empty and open. All we've done is made the area larger just so we can make our group camp outside. Add some extra life to it if you choose to increase the scale of your area map. Obviously, this is an example. If you want to port everything over to your own region, adjust and make your own regional map, feel free to. This is as provided. The wilderness around it gives you a few encounters. There are some bandits living in the area, a Lucrata, the Bee-Man, a crazy old hermit guy that lives up here, Bewlet, a land shark that lives in the valley that'll pop up occasionally, a trade caravan, giant frogs, gnolls, a nest of harpy, leeches, a large Lucrata, hive of lizard men, groups of pilgrims. So every potential encounter that your party can run into in this region is very well detailed. Not necessarily the stats. You're going to have to translate the stats. But plus side number 1 is we're not using any creatures that are unique, any creatures that are unusual. Almost every creature that we have here is a standard Dungeons & Dragons creature from 1st edition, 2nd edition, monster manual. If you're 5e D&D Beyond user, you'll be able to find every single one of these for quick and simple uses. If you're using GURPS, if you're using Pathfinder or any of the other systems, a goblin is a goblin, a gnoll is a gnoll, a bugbear is a bugbear. Find the appropriately an equal stat block and drop it in. You can ignore what's here, use it as a reference point more than anything. So yeah, all of the creatures that can potentially show up in this region are detailed here. The book talks about where they're at, why are they where they're at, what will they do as the environment changes, what are they hunting, how will they behave in combat. Very, very comprehensive information about each of the potential wild combat wilderness encounters here. Love, love, love this. I wish more books provided this much information in the layout for them. Some DMs, some players some of you guys might be like, oh, that's too much shit to read. And that's fine. Skim over it, take what you want and go. But if you're a DM that likes to have a lot of information, a lot of framework to build a more stable living world, man, great source for it. Great source for it. All the way down to talking about how we've used Sturges in combat. So new DMs, first-time DMs, this is an invaluable resource for running a module, specifically the Return to Keep on the Borderlands. So then we get to the meat of the battle, the Caves of Chaos. Okay, unfortunately, we don't have a great map for this. It was split between the cover, map 1. This is the western half of the caves. This is the eastern half. So basically, your group will come in from the eastern side of this big rift, working their way through the caves and clearing them out. 25 years ago, when this thing launched, the caves were full of humanoids, different tribes of goblins, orcs, kobolds, gnolls, bugbear, an ogre, and a minotaur were kind of in an unsteady alliance within these caves, gathering their forces to start attacking the keep, things like that. The storyline is assuming that in the past 25 years, a few groups of adventurers have come through here, eventually destroying everything in the cave, but nature abhors a vacuum. About 10 years ago, 15 years ago, small groups of bad guys started moving back into the caves. And now there's a new death cult, a bunch of necromancers that have taken over the furthest point in the caves, which would be up here, Cave K, I believe, and have formed up this bigger thing. So your party's been called back into action to see what's going on in the caves and put an end to any of the threat. Okay. So the caves themselves are designed to go from in order of arrival. When your party first comes in, Cave A, followed by Cave B, C, D, E, F. The idea is these caves were set up in a descending to ascending level of difficulty. Your level 1 party should be able to handle Cave System A just fine. Level 1 party should handle B okay, and they should go into level 2 to hit Cave C and D. C and D will lead them to E and F, which will be level 3. Okay, by the time they finish with E and F, starting to work to G and H and I, they should be level 3 going into 4. They should be ideally level 4 when they go into the Necromancer Crypt to come out at level 5. So this is structured to be a beginner, low-level introduction to Dungeons & Dragons campaign. But because of the way the caves are laid out, your party can certainly walk into the wrong cave and face a threat that they're not prepared for. So you, Dungeon Masters, need to make sure that you're being very vocal, very descriptive, giving a low-level group, an inexperienced group, the opportunity to retreat if they walked into the Cave of the Cultist right off the bat, for example. There's no mechanism other than the rumors that are going to drive your party into the caves in any given order. Once they get to the canyon, it's kind of in their hands where they go. So be prepared for them to go into the wrong area and have to go running away. More than that, now let's be honest. Okay, one of the plus sides from its adjustment from how it was in B2 to where it is now. These groups that are in the caves aren't necessarily allied with each other. So you're not going to have a goblin run across the street and go get the orcs and bring the orcs in like you used to have the threat of. So one of the plus sides in the modern itineration is most of the caves are unique, isolated. Even though they're next to each other, the inhabitants of either cave don't necessarily like each other, so they're not going to be so quick to respond to any disturbances. Now, if your party's standing in the middle of the valley and drops a thunderclap, you got to pay attention to scale at that point. Thunderclap's got a sound that goes 200 feet, so anything within a 20 square point of this is going to hear that thunderclap go off. That's going to echo through caves. So certain things will potentially draw the attention of the enemies. As Dungeon Masters, you need to be prepared for that. I would suggest bringing enough scouts into the area to respond to the stimuli, but don't bring so many out to where your party's instantaneously overwhelmed because they weren't smart about using a spell. This is an opportunity that you have to teach them to be smart about it, but not punish them by having 50 dudes stream out of all the caves and kill your level 1 party because they used the wrong spell. No. They see 1 or 2 heads pop up out of bushes that they didn't see before. They look over them. Oh crap, they discovered a scout post that is now made aware of their presence because of the thunderclap. Those are the small little technical things that you can use to teach our party about the consequences of using a loud spell without just pounding on our party for doing it. But yeah, all of that comes back to us, the Dungeon Master, referee, whatever you want to call yourself, being aware of what's going on in the area and how the creatures in the areas are going to react to that stimuli. So we have a cave full of kobolds, small group of kobolds trying to survive. We have a cave full of bandits, a group of bandits that have moved in, seeing an opportunity, and are ostensibly talking with the cultist in Cave H. A few non-player characters. Definitely make sure that if you're looking at Cave B, the bandit lair, once again, these aren't just bad guys, they're people. They're going to have names, they're going to have personalities. They may not necessarily be hostile to the party. They might try to draft the party. They might try to get the party in and say, hey, you guys should join us. There's some good pickings out here, so on and so forth. How you play that can change the paradigm of it. You have the option to use these bandits as not necessarily hostile creatures. As a matter of fact, that can be a lot of fun if your party's teetering on the edge of good or bad. Maybe all of a sudden they join the bandit lair and they decide to attack the keep instead. Can totally flip the paradigm of the adventure. Can totally flip the paradigm of the short campaign, but the opportunity is there. There's nothing saying they have to kill these bandits. So the former orc lair is basically nothing but undead, abandoned, and ripped up. It's a 4-room, 5-room place that doesn't have a lot going on to it. In its current itineration, in the Return to the Keep of the Borderland, this will be the first indicator to the party that there's a cult of necromancers working in the caves. So it is important in regards to the story, but it's very, very, very low key, low impact in regards to actual encounters or adventures. Okay? The goblin lair is a little bit more active. You have some more goblins that have already sworn fealty to the warlocks, to the necromancers in the upper cave. So they're going to be a little bit more active in their defense. They might send a goblin to alert the forces that were being invaded, so on and so forth. So you definitely got to do some reading when you get to Cave D, the goblin lair, to understand the amount of goblins that are situated in each area, how are they going to react, and you also want to make sure that you've taken a good deep look at the map. Again, not the easiest to do in this copy. I would definitely make a printout of it, but Cave D, making sure you understand where Cave D leads, where does it connect, and who do they interact with. Cave D is actually connected to E and F both. So the goblins over here are a little bit more active, a little bit more alert. Ironically, they're by the front of the area, so your party's probably going to encounter them pretty early. Let's go to caves E and F real quick and see what's included there. D is the hobgoblins and the goblins. E is the troll cave. A1 troll that hangs out here, doesn't really care about much. Kind of helps the goblins out because the goblins feed it. That's really it for the E cave. F is the former hobgoblin cave. Lots of undead in here, reinforcing the presence of the necromancers, as well as a few zombies. The F series of caves is basically the storage for the necromancers' forces. Zombies, skeletons, lots of them. And then G cave is the fungus cave. You're going to have a sturge layer here and an oitug, which is a nasty beast, gelatinous cube, green slime. The G cave is a little bit more monsterish. You definitely need to make sure that you know how these creatures work. I'm going to tell you, an oitug is a big-ass creature for a low-level party. I would caution you on using this one. The way it's posited, the way it's positioned, your party likely won't fight it unless they're dumb. Okay? But new players can make dumb mistakes as far as if they go searching in the wrong area, they run into this oitug. Armor class 3 would be armor class 17, hit dice 8, hit point 60. That's a tough fight for a low-level party. That would be one of the things, that one of the creatures I would be cautious about. A gelatinous cube is challenging as well. Gas spores can mess your party up. So the G caves are pretty difficult because of the type of creatures here. Make sure you know how violet fungi react to gas spores and how all of this stuff works together. Okay, this is, and there's a weir rat hiding in here as well on top of everything else. Lycus the weir rat. Now you're told Lycos prefers rat form, so he's just going to look like a giant humanish rat. If you want to make him do more, he is feral, attacking in rat form rather than with weapons. But as they hammer on it, they're going to realize that they can't hurt him. Normal weapons immune to non-magical, immune to non-silver. So all of a sudden, he's going to be this tough rat that's going to key off. You can do more with Lycos if you want. The book leaves it nice and plain. He's just an oversized rat, happens to be a weir rat. If you want to expand on that, you have the opportunity to turn Lycos into more of a player. And you have the bugbears in Cave H that are on the losing end of everything. Once upon a time, they were the strongest group. Now they're cutting out. They're doing the best they can to maintain their lair and their way of life while surrounded by hostiles. The bugbears are typically combat driven, but based on the plot and the opportunity that your party has as they get to Cave H, Your party may be able to interact with the bugbears a little bit more. Talk about, using them as a neutral point. I do want to emphasize the original Caves of Chaos was a loose alliance, a loose coalition between all the humanoid creatures there that would move between them, helping each other against outsiders. The bugbear may have bullied the goblins all the time, but when the players show up, the bugbear is going to protect the goblins because those are my goblins. That's not as much of a case in the Return to. The newer version of it makes sure that each of the layers, for the most part, is very distinct and independent of the other caves. So it helps us as dungeon masters prevent our players from getting overwhelmed. And it allows the players to be a little more exploratory without accidentally triggering 3 or 4 caves working together to kill them. So that's definitely an improvement. Definitely an improvement. But this is a living area. Always remember, if nothing wants to die. Okay, so if the 4 kobold guards show up and jump a group, and the group kills the first 2 kobolds in 2 attacks, those other 2 kobolds are going to disengage and haul ass the moment they can, and go warn their fellows. You shouldn't be fighting most of these creatures to the death unless they're cornered in a room with nowhere else to go. Something you got to remember. The labyrinth is Cave I, and it's the Minotaurs. And they has a couple Minotaurs and a Medusa. What the hell? You guys gonna mess with the Medusa at this level? Heavy duty. The former Knoll Caves have been taken over by a necromancer, and their guardians, as it were. We have a 5th level necromancer and a 3rd level necromancer living in there. And then we finally get to Cave K, which is the hidden temple. Lots of undead, zombies, a couple clerics, and a priest of Nerul. This is where the Cult of the Dead hangs out. The K level caves have a lot of casters in them, guys. You're teaching your party how to deal with magic users at this point. Couple things I want to point out as we scroll back to the end of that section. Let's go to the top map real quick. The K system is very large. It's going to be the largest of the systems. It briefly connects with J, but that's really it. Long tunnel that leads to Quasiquetin, a non-player character that you can play around with. I have to emphasize, make sure your players are at least level 3 before they get to K. A lot of the spells that the enemies are using, sleep, hold person, web, things like that. Your players need to have that first little bit of an oomph, a little bit of an ooch of actually, we're not going to have anything. They might have a proficiency bonus at 3. The extra hit points at the very least to survive these encounters at K. DMs, spend the time to build a full roster out to the side. Look at the comparative power of all the inhabitants of the cave system K against what your players can do. Everything in the cave system of K is intelligent. It communicates with each other, and most of them are magic users that have zombies and skeletons as their assistants. This can be a very challenging, overwhelming wing for your party if you fight intelligently. Okay? What I mean by intelligently is the Cleric of Nerul sends all of their undead at the party and runs off to get help. 3 rounds later, another 8 zombies come marching in while 2 magic users stand 40 feet away blasting your party with spells until a 3rd magic user shows up with his 6 skeletons. All of a sudden, your party's screwed. Okay? You have to make some adjustments to your plan, to your outlay when you're running the K section if you don't want to TPK your party, okay? Please, please, please pay attention to the amount of magic users that are in the K wing, how they're going to interact with their guards, and how quickly and easily your party can possibly be overwhelmed. More than any other system here, the K system, the Cult of the Dead, the evil cult that's taken over the top of the ring, is going to be the most dangerous, without a doubt. Okay? Period. The end. Your party's going to have some issues in here. If you run it as written, if you're running it intelligently, your party's going to be wiped. So you might be tempted to, you might need to remove a couple of the skeletons, a couple of zombies from the creature count, depending on how your party's doing here. Don't be afraid to adjust for things like that. We're not trying to kill our party. This is early, man. This is level 3. We're still trying to teach our players how to play. Enjoying the game, giving our players the love of D&D. And if we're obliterating them on their 3rd session because they walk into an OP temple, you might have one or two players that really don't enjoy the game anymore. So kind of keep that in mind. When you're running Return to Keep on the Borderlands, this is designed as a low-level module. It was predicated on the beginner's module. This is the first time you ever played D&D. Return to the Keep is revisiting that idea, giving us a lot more tools to work with it and play with it. Man, I recommend this module. Whether you're an old timer that wants to go look at the that doesn't have Return to Keep, the Keep on the Borderland, wants to revisit it, add this sucker in. If you're new to the game and you're wanting to increase your library and your repertoire, this is a wonderful product. It honestly feels like the first 5 pages of this book are a miniature Dungeon Master guide, telling you in context of this particular adventure, what does darkness mean? In context of this particular region, how is mapping going to work? In context of these tunnels, why is marching order important? Really, really good, useful information at the start of this module that some of the more modern, number one, our older ones didn't have just from print space. Number two, the newer ones don't have because either A, it's assumed it's not important, or B, it's assumed you already know it. I don't know. Good stuff. A couple changes to the actual map that I want to discuss here. Let me go to a single pager and zoom in a little bit better. You notice all of these dotted lines everywhere, okay? In the original publication, there were a couple secret tunnels, but there wasn't this length or this depth of submerged, curvy, underground, hidden things. Cave I actually is responsible for most of these. Cave I is a completely submerged underground system. There's an additional thing, the labyrinth, okay? Basically, they took the J and redid it as I. So the labyrinth is a cave system that, as you look at all the dotted lines, we're going to scroll all the way down the bottom, super fast scroll, sorry, to look at the other version of it. Cave I even wraps all the way out here to the beginning, including a couple secret entry tunnels. So this is me telling you as a dungeon master, decide early if you're going to use the I cave system or not. You can completely eradicate it and save yourself some work, or you can keep it intact and increase the breadth and the depth of these dungeons. If you use the labyrinth caves, you now have connections with every other cave. Every single cave within the valley is now connected through the labyrinth. If we're connecting at that point, maybe you have the obligation potentially to have these caves a little more in line with each other. If this is me giving some editorial comment here to close this out. That's the one biggest shift between the old one and the new one is the existence of a cave system that connects everything. If you choose to use this cave system, 2 ways to address it. Either A, it's abandoned other than the Minotaurs running around here and no one knows about it. But if the Minotaurs are in there, I got to kind of say that they're going to be using access to the rest of these layers to hunt. Minotaurs are smart. Minotaurs are carnivorous. They're going to use the cave systems in the labyrinth to subjugate almost everything else here. So if you include the Minotaurs by proxy, you need to consider at this point that all of the residents of the caves are in a loose coalition driven by the Minotaurs. Option B, keep the caves, ignore the Minotaurs. Now your players have this entirely cool underground dungeon and labyrinth thing to experiment with and move around, popping up here and there. Downside of that is a lot of map work is going to go in for you as a dungeon master. You might consider putting some random encounters in these tunnels just to make them possibly more dangerous. The upside of using these as abandoned access tunnels is more adventure, more searches, more opportunities for skill rolls, more opportunities for mapping, just more opportunities for practice. Option C, ignore cave system I entirely. Remove it off your map, pretend it doesn't exist. You're only losing out on some Medusas, a Minotaur, and a crazy maze that have to track. So, yeah. And honestly, as we zoom in, I love the idea of it. But there's so much of the labyrinth that doubles in and over itself, under itself, back in on itself. It's a very well designed labyrinth. But man, it's going to add a lot of work to your mapping to really flesh this kind of a thing out. So yeah, I don't necessarily know that the map itself, the labyrinth is man, feel about how you feel about it. I'm not going to tell you what, just, whether to use it or not, just offering that information up. Now, on that accord, we've gone through the ideas, we've gone through the module. Long story short, the people in the keep are being threatened by a resurgence of evil in the caves of chaos. The resurgence is being led by a death cult. Ultimately, your party wants to go in there, break the back of the death cult, chase off everyone else so the valley can live in peace and prosperity again. That's your TLDR plot here, okay? So going from there, ignoring the tunnels, ignore the tunnels at your own peril, add your own tunnels at your own peril. But now let's get into the nuts and bolts. There's a lot of non-player characters that you need to track in here. You're not given a single point of collection. Reading through the book, RTFM and making notes. RTFM and making notes. NPCs on both sides, both residents of the keep itself and residents within the cave and residents within the valley along the side. Different levels of non-player characters that you need to prepare for. No one-stop shop for them. Downside of that. Maps. Maps are, while they're attractive, they leave a lot to be desired. If you're playing Theater of the Mind, ignore what I'm saying. You have the reference for the maps that you need. If you're playing on a VTT and you're looking at this map, you're probably scratching your head going, yeah, I got to do a lot of remapping. Yeah, you do. I would recommend virtual tabletop maps to do two things. Number one, make a map of the valley itself, the entire valley, with just the cave openings that are visible to the naked eye. That would mean E is not visible and A is not visible because there's trees covering them up, right? Didn't notice that till now. All of a sudden, yeah, shit. They don't even see cave unless they go into the woods. They won't find cave E unless they go into these forests. They're not obviously visible. So make a geographic map representing the canyon. Doesn't have to even be perfectly scaled accurate, just so they can have a visual representation of where they're going, what they're doing. Then as a dungeon master, I very much recommend that you draw out each of the cave systems on their own, as their own separate map. Even if they have a connection, for example, right up here, we see that Cave A doesn't connect to anything. Cave B has a connection through a secret door to Cave C. It's fine. They don't need to know about Cave C until they find that secret door. So I would definitely, without a doubt, recommend mapping each of these caves, each of the caves of chaos, map them independently for your VTT or your tabletop group, whatever. Keep the overall map handy as they go from outside to inside, transition them to the localized map of your cave. You're not going to give away any fog of war issues there. Your mapping jobs will be a lot smaller, a lot quicker, and a lot crisper, as it were. And the connections between the caves will be that much more evident as they approach them. Okay? So yeah, long story, this is a really good module. A great revisitation of a classic. A ton of useful information in this book. The maps, while they look a lot better than they did back in the day, they need some work. That would definitely be something I would say as a dungeon master. Make sure you're putting a lot of effort into translating the maps into something that you can use for your scene. Now, ultimately, the idea behind Keep on the Borderlands is to provide a sandbox-ish type of a sandbox area for your party to find their own adventure in, ultimately leading themselves to the caves of chaos and the death cult that's slowly taking it over. You have so much latitude as a dungeon master to plot and plan and scheme here. You have so many great non-player characters to use to engage your party into this. This has the potential to turn into a long-term home base for your party if you lay into it heavily enough. The region is generic enough to where you can then expand it from this small 3 mile by 5 mile area, 15 square mile area, to attach it to any other part in your campaign world and have it expand out from there. Early in the stream, I did offer the suggestion that the actual play area, map 3, the area map, is kind of small by design. Our party is going from the keep to the adventures back to the keep on a daily basis. If you need to add some challenge, feel free to expand that map out, but definitely, just increase the scale. Instead of 1 inch equals 500 yards, 1 inch can equal 1 mile. That's perfectly fine. But then understand that we are now going into a 15 mile by 25 mile area, exponentially increasing the amount of ground geography and potential encounters here. So keep that in mind if you worry about your scale. Lots of fun stuff to do in the wilderness. The one thing that this module is missing is world-shaking consequences, which is fine. We're level 1. Your world-shaking consequence should be not, your success or your major quest should be living till tomorrow. Getting to level 3. You don't always need to have a world-shaking consequence to have an adventure or a campaign. As a matter of fact, the more often we put these in, the more often our players roll and go, oh, what's threatening the world today? Starting with something like this, for the lack of a better term, lower level and mundane, helps you build the stakes for more important things later. If for some reason we got it into our head that this death cult here in K7 is on the cusp of summoning Nerul, the Lord of Death, and if our third level players don't stop him, Nerul's going to end the world, that's way, way, way too high of stakes for a third level party to be wrestling with, okay? Let's remember that, okay? This is lower level stuff, right? So keep the stakes appropriate. The stakes, the plot, the BBEG should matter for this 15 square mile region. Shouldn't be big enough to attract people from 100 miles away. Otherwise, we're not using level 1 people. We're using level 6 people to come kill the BBEG. Make sure to keep your scale. These are the kind of adventures that will really help you set your pace moving into your campaign. It might feel low stakes. It might feel kind of unimportant. Your level 1 character is low stakes. Your level 1 character is unimportant. In order to increase the stakes later, the stakes have to be low now. If you and your players are convinced that they're the second coming of Lord Baldurin and they just have to get a couple levels to get there, that's what makes these kind of adventures fall flat, okay? Why should I care about a bunch of gnolls? I'm here to save the world. You don't know that yet. You're not even sure you're going to survive till tomorrow yet, boy. Why don't you go deal with them kobolds real quick, and then we'll see what happens. That's where you set the stakes. That's how you set your increasing threat levels in a campaign. Starting out on day 1 and escalating from there. If you start out up here at DEFCON 1 on level 1, you've got nowhere to go. Start out at 5 and let yourself work up. And that's kind of the design and the idea behind this module. Lots of great activities, lots of fun adventures, lots of things, but they're all really low stakes. There's nothing that's going to threaten the world. There's nothing that's going to destabilize the region right now. So the urgency to act isn't as much of a thing for your party here right off the bat. Now, as they play through, clearing out a couple of the caves, then the stakes can increase as the cult is aware of the repeated incursions. So yeah, but hey, I'm gonna go ahead and finish up this review now. Just want to do a quick brief look at Return to the Keep on the Borderlands. A couple things to keep in mind as you're running this in whichever system you're doing. It is a generic. There's nothing wrong with generic. It's a generic castle placed in a generic region with generic bad guys. All that means is you get to turn it into your own thing. Lots of non-player characters, a full-blown town that's settled in within the keep now. Lots of opportunities for you as a dungeon master to roleplay, to encourage your party to interact with the non-player characters around there. The region around outside has a lot of adventures, nothing super high stakes. A wide variety of combat encounters to allow your party practice. Fighting lizard men in the swamp, dealing with mud, dealing with water, difficult movement. Dealing with gnolls up in the hills, dealing with line of sight, dealing with a more aggressive, faster opponent. Getting over the Caves of Chaos, you have a wide variety of creatures that are going to react differently. Kobolds and their traps, orcs and their aggression, goblin and their penchant for reinforcements, so on and so forth. So, even though nothing in this module seems like it jumps out as like, ooh, super special, it's not supposed to, guys. It's supposed to be a wonderful adventure and set of tools to help you as a dungeon master practice playing, to help your players learn how to play, provide us a nice generic setting, a good flowing adventure, and some tried and true bad guys that your party will learn how to interact with, will learn how to defeat, without having to go too far out of your brain, too far into reference. Most people know what a goblin is, so they're able to engage with it instantly in their brain. Things like that. So relying on generic creatures is a good thing, especially early on. You don't want your party getting lost in the description of a creature day 1 when they still need to be remembering where's my plus to hit. So, yeah. But all in all, the Silver Anniversary 25th anniversary return to keep on the Borderlands is an outstanding module to add to your collection. Whether you had B2 into Keep on the Borderland back in the day, can't find anymore, have fond memories, this will be a great replacement for it. If you're just looking around for something new, something different, and even though it's not new, it is definitely different, that you can use as a generic starting point for a low-level campaign, is all right here. You're getting into a homebrew world, start out with a Return to the Keep on the Borderlands. Let your party help guide you on how to build your world. 15 square mile section of a world is built for you, and from there you can expand out without having any major effect on plot, on politics, on anything else. Wonderful starting point to get to begin letting your party steer your world design. Wonderful information here to help you remember things about DMing, guiding long-term adventures. Because remember, we're going into this the caves, multiple incursions. What happens after the second trip? What happens after the fifth trip? All that stuff is contained in this book and more. But hey, DMGeezerjim here. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to hearing back from you. Thoughts, concerns, questions, comments, suggestions for more modules in the future. I'm going to be trying a couple new projects on my video stream, so if you see a couple new playlists hop up, encourage you to check them out. Give me some feedback on them. I've had a lot of people ask about how do I use this module? How would I prepare this module in play? Man, that's difficult because I don't know your group. All I can do is give you information from my group, my style, and all of that. So we're going to take a stab at that. But hey, thank you for your time. Appreciate your support. Likes, follows, subscribes, all that kind of cool stuff. If you ever want to join me live for a chat, we're over on Twitch Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Willing to talk about everything and anything D&D related that you want to bring to the table. So feel free to join us over there. Obviously, Patreon, Etsy, stuff like that. If you want to help us support us long term, I've got some VTT maps available over on Etsy. We're adding adventure guides, random tables, maps, and other stuff to the Patreon to help the DMs out there. But hey, thank you. You guys be safe out there, and we'll see you soon.